name is Cesar Gomez, and today we're going to talk about an introduction to leadership. Lesson 1, general aspects of leadership. Today the world is in need for leadership. The world is looking for men and women to guide them, to inspire them, to empower them to become what they need to be in this world. Leadership is an important part of our society, of our world. We need leaders. The world is in search for leaders with the ability and the capacity to lead them and to show them the proper way to accomplish their desires and to fulfill their destiny. The first aspect that we're going to talk about in leadership is the power and the responsibility. Being in leadership, of course, has to do with the exercise of power and responsibility. A wise leader uses power with responsibility. You have to have power, but at the same time, you have to be able to use that power that you have as a leader with responsibility. What is power? Basically, power is to have the ability, the authority to make things happen. That's when we can say we have power, because we have the ability, the capacity, and we have all the resources that we need in order to make things happen. Basically, leadership brings with itself power to make decisions. A leader has to make decisions. We're going to define what is a leader. John Hagee gives us a specific definition about leadership. A leader or leadership is the discipline to exercise, to influence with a purpose, a group of people. Leadership is also to move these people in certain goals that will have permanent benefits for the specific group. A leadership, or when a person is in a position of leadership, they exercise influence. Basically, influence is the exercise of power that should be not forced or imposed into someone. It's just a mutual trust. When we exercise leadership and when we are in a position of leadership, we do it intentionally. It means we are committed. We are in a commitment to be a leader. Also, when we exercise leadership, we have goals that have permanent benefits. We need to reach the needs of the groups. That's why we become leaders, because a person who is a leader has to empower the group, has to help the group, has to show them by which methods they can reach their potential. 2, the leader. We're going to talk about different aspects of leadership. First of all, we have the utilitarian leader. Basically, a person can follow a leader because he or she has a benefit. This kind of leadership is not good enough, because when the person already has the benefit that he was pursuing, they will leave the leader. They will not follow the leader anymore. Another aspect of leadership, another kind of leadership, is leadership because of his position. A person can follow a leader because he or she has a position of authority over several areas. And in other words, this person has been put into a place of authority and a place of leadership, and people have no other option but to submit to them. There are certain organizations and some places, certain companies, where the manager, where the supervisor, where the CEO has to be obeyed. He may not inspire, he may not be as effective, but anyway, because he is in that position of authority, he has to be obeyed. People have to submit to him. The genuine leader, they follow because the vision that this leader has is powerful enough to inspire, to attract, to motivate, and to bring conviction that this person must be followed. That's why this is a genuine leader. Now, there is different. And we have to understand the difference between leader and director. Basically, in a person who is a director, to become a leader, it requires a change in his way of thinking. Basically, leadership in this case is an attitude, is a style of life, is a way to inspire and help others. A director is just a person who occupies a position, and he doesn't have to care about the people of the people who is under his position. We are going to talk about the importance of leadership. Basically, a leader promotes unity and division. Promotes unity and not division. This is the purpose of a leadership, is to bring unity, to bring harmony, to make the group work together to reach and to accomplish their goals. Second, leadership promotes a single vision. It helps a group to focus, to pursue certain goals that has to be done in order to accomplish their goals, in order to accomplish certain dreams, certain desires that the group has. Leadership promotes develop new leaders. That's the job of a leader. It's not only to be the center, it's not only to be the person in charge, but a leader promotes and helps and develops the leadership of other people, equips people, give people the tools, the resources, and develop the ability of this group in order to become effective leaders in this society. Also, the importance of leadership, it is because it guarantees the success. As we already mentioned, this world needs leadership. This world needs leaders. When a person who is in leadership is effective, it will be success. Success to his life, success to the group, success to the organization. We're going to talk about certain risks. Leadership is a wonderful experience. Leadership is an experience where we help people to grow, to become where they're supposed to come. But also, in leadership, there are certain risks that we have to keep in mind. The first one is the leader has success, and when people have success, they start attracting people to them. They become the attention of them. And we have to keep and be careful with the attitude or spirit when we become successful in leadership. Also, the leader has fame. Leadership and an effective leadership in this society brings fame. People become known to society, and it gives them certain power of influence, certain power of knowledge before others, and they become the center. And this is dangerous if it's not accompanied with the right attitude. Also, the leader in money. When a church, when an organization brings people to the organization, more people start coming to the church. It's not only the people, but the resources, the money. And money, if it's not administrated with a certain way, with a certain attitude, it may become kind of dangerous. So a leader has to have the ability to be a good steward. Also, leader in sex. Today, we are in a society that promotes satisfaction, gratification, and the leader becomes in a certain position where he is going to have to face temptation. And leaders have to face temptation, but they have to know their commitment to their job as leaders. In the case of Christian leadership, they have to be committed to the principles of God, and they have to be faithful to God and to their vocation, to their call. The leader and family. We cannot neglect family. That's many leaders today who are effective in this world, effective in the organization. They do not know how to handle family and their job, and we cannot neglect our family. We have to take care of family. We have to be successful with our family. There's no way we can be successful in our job as leaders and fail as part of our household, as part of our caretaker of our family. Lesson 2, qualities of leaders. The leader has to have qualities. There are certain important qualities that the leader must have. The first one, we're going to talk about spiritual qualities. First of all, is a salvation experience. In Christian leadership, the person has to have a personal relationship with Jesus. He must be saved. This is what we call salvation experience. Also, the leader has to have a spiritual sensitivity. The leader has to be sensible to the need of the group, not only to the emotional, but also to the spirituals, and he has to have discernment of the emotional condition of his people. That is to be sensitive spiritually. Also, spiritual intelligence. When we talk about spiritual intelligence, the leader must discern how God is moving within the group. What is God doing? Because the leader has to understand that he has to cooperate. He's a cooperator. He works with God and in the process of building people, of bringing people up to their potential. So he has to be spiritually intelligent in this case. Also, a leader must study and pray. Study the Bible. He has to know the Word of God. The foundation of our leadership is always in the eternal principles of the Word of God. So he has to know the Bible. He must have a deep and committed and profound life of prayer and dependence of God. We're going to talk about B, the personal qualities of a leader. What are the personal qualities of a leader? The personal qualities of a leader is sensitive to the needs of the people. We work with people. We are building people. We become leaders to help people. And in order to accomplish our goals, in order to do that kind of job, the leader must understand and all be ready to help and sometimes provide the needs of his people, the need of the group. A leader must be positive. That's an attitude of a leadership. That's a plus. The leader cannot be pessimistic. He always has to find his way to find solutions, to exercise his faith and his potential when he faces challenges and problems in this world. A leader has to be loyal. He has to has integrity in his life. People must trust the leader. When the leader lacks trust and loyalty from his people, his leadership will not be effective. Also, integrity. Integrity is part of the character in the life of the leader. He must be a communicator. He has to have the ability to inspire, to communicate, to speak verbally, to move and motivate people when he communicates with the group. He has to be clear. He has to be effective. A communicator, or communication in this case, is a very important part of leadership. We will see the ministerial qualities. Leadership has ministerial qualities as well. One of them is preparation, because when you become a Christian leader in ministry, there are specific tasks and responsibilities that you must accomplish. So you have to be prepared. And when you don't know something related to ministry, you have to be able to learn. If you know how to preach, well, you're going to have to become, and you have to know the principles of communication of the Word of God and preaching. And if it needs counseling, you have to be able to counsel people, to talk to people. The leader has to have a vision given by God. It's not his personal vision. And a vision that will inspire people, that would move people, a vision that will touch people, is that vision that comes from God. Also, the leader must develop ministerial skills. He has to be able to develop those skills in order to move, in order to face the challenges, in order to do whatever tasks he has to do as a minister, as a leadership in Christian leadership. Lesson 3, the leadership, the mission, and the vision. Part of leadership is the mission. Let's see some of the characteristics of the mission. First of all, it has to be powerful enough to attract people. That's a plus. It should be different from another organization. We're not competing in any other organization, but people will say, well, if he has the same mission as this organization, let me go instead of him to another organization. So it has to be different from the organization or from other organizations. It should be brief, and so people can be remembered the mission. When a leader is sharing his mission or sharing the mission of the organization, the mission has to be so brief that people will be able to memorize it. Also, it should be clear, or it should be communicated clearly and easily. People has to be able to understand the vision. Cannot be complicated. In terms of leadership, we not only have a mission, but we also have a vision. And basically, the vision has to be defined in terms and relation to the mission. In other words, vision will respond to the question of how are we going to accomplish our mission. It is important to write the mission so people get accustomed to see it. Basically, the vision cannot be a repetition of the mission. Also, it should be clear and people has to be able to understand the vision, the steps of the vision, the strategies of vision, so they can follow through the plan and certain strategies in the vision. Also, the vision must reflect the culture of the organization. A vision cannot contradict or cannot go against the culture and the tradition that the organization has. It is important to develop that ability. Within the organization and in terms of leadership, we also have values. Values are important. Basically, the values are the set of spiritual, ethical, professional, and moral principles that the organization or church has, no matter what the consequences are. People are to follow those values, to work within those values. Those values set the limit and the procedures by which we accomplish our mission and our vision. Lesson 4, the leader and his leader and habits. Basically, a habit is an action that is repeated automatically or in an unconscious way. And the leader will become effective if he develops and he acquires in his life the proper habits that will make him an effective. And basically, forming habits, good habits, is an action that becomes is a repetition. Some scientists says that it is formed during a period of time in the childhood. People usually have acquired habits since they are children, and habits become part of the person, part of the character of the leadership, of the leader in this case. Habits will make leadership effective. Someone is a leader only if he or she can work in an effective way, and habits will be the key element to be effective. That's why the leader has the responsibility to develop good habits in this case, in order to share his vision, share the mission, in order to model a way of life, and people will see his habits, and that will make him able to be will make him more effective in this case. Lesson 5, the leader and influence. Basically, influence has to do with the ability of dealing with people. Influence is changing or modifying the behavior of people. Basically, influence is the key element of leadership. We are leaders because we want to influence people. We want to move people in a certain way, in a certain direction. That's why influence is part. If the leader has no influence, he is not a leader. That's why influence is so important in the process of leadership. We will see the types of influence within leadership. We have the utilitarian influence. And utilitarian influence is when people are only used for the benefit of the leader. And this is not that effective because, as the same name said it, people feel used. And we're not to use people for our own benefit as leaders. We are to empower people. We are to help people. We are to develop people. Also, the emotional influence, and this is the key element here, are the emotions, the feelings of the people, and is when the leader manipulates or uses the emotions of people to move them, to guide them in certain direction. But as we know, emotions change. So when the emotions go down, that type of influence is not anymore effective. And then we have integral influence, which works in the whole person. And this is the more effective way of doing, of influencing people, because we are talking about the whole person. We are developing the whole person. We are helping the whole person, which is an effective way to raise leaders, to build people. We're going to talk about the origin and influence of leadership. and in this case, influence, the origins of influence. First of all, we will have influence as an umbilical relationship. The baby is in the womb of the mother, and he depends so much of the leader. He is nurtured through this umbilical relationship. That's a process of leadership. There's a process where the disciple of the student depends of the leader. He's nurtured. He's taken care of by the leader. But eventually, he will go to another stage. And that is influence as pedagogic process. We are teaching people. The leader becomes a model. And the student and the person who is under the influence of the leader is learning from the leader. Because the leader in his way of life is teaching the person how to become a leader. Influence as an enriching relationship. Basically, in the process of leadership, influence is a communication. Both parts are enriched. The leader he was benefiting himself from the person he's influencing, but the person who is being influenced is also getting a benefit. So this is an enriching process for both. Influence as the promise of independence. As we know, a leader cannot always keep the person under his influence. There's a promise of independence. If we are effective leaders, we are raising people, we are developing people, and people will receive a mission and a vision from God, and our job is to sometimes let them go, let them do what they have to do. Even though if they keep working with us or they keep working with the leader, there's some type of independence where the person can develop his ability and his skills as a leader. We will talk about what is not influence. First of all, influence is not manipulation. We have to be very careful that we will not use influence to manipulate people, or that we manipulate people to influence and to get what we want from people. Influence is not using someone. That is kind of self-explanatory. We influence people not to use them for our own benefit, but to empower them. Influence is not hypocrisy. When people start doubting leaders, they will not trust the leader, they will not follow the leader. We have to be transparent. We have to have integrity in front of people. We have to be also, influence is not inflexible. A leader has to learn to be flexible, to understand the group he is working with, to see their needs, and in that case he has to be flexible. And finally, we will see the myths of influence. Basically today in this society, people have the tendency to build myths around leaders. Something that is not true, a wrong perception, whether it's good or bad. In this case, let's talk about a good one. But also, the leader has to be careful not to communicate people a myth, but people need to see the leader as a real person, That's a plus, and that's a key element in leadership. Lesson 6, the leader and failure. We will see the definition of failure. Basically, we should understand that failure is one of the steps to become successful. So failure is part of success. They say that if someone becomes successful without going through some type of failure, they will not be able to, if they fail, they will not be able to return to success, because in some way, always failure gives us a lesson for success in leadership. Why some fail and others succeed? That's the question. There's leaders who have success in their lives. There are other leaders who just fail. Basically, it appears that there are conflicted terms. But basically, we have to understand that failure is a necessity, is part of the process of a successful leadership. In a failure, we learn, we build our character, we develop skills, abilities that would help us eventually as we keep going in the process of leadership. A definition of the word failure. Basically, failure is not something that belongs to someone. No, it's not. It's something that happens by accident, usually. Failure is not something that runs in the blood. It's not part of ourselves. It's not. Failure is the grinding that God uses. Usually when we fail, God uses those circumstances to teach us profound principles, to teach us a lesson that would help us, that will enrich our knowledge and our experience as leaders. We cannot call failure. In fact, we shouldn't call it that way. We should call it an experience. And basically, failure is also a good motivator for success. Many people who have failed, after they go through that, they become more motivated in terms of success. They fight, they race, they go and they do what they have to do. Very, very motivated. We have a success story. The Wright brothers, they invented the plane, as we also know. In failure, we have to see the vicious cycles. There's always some vicious cycles related to failure. For example, there's a vicious cycle of failure and self-esteem. Self-esteem is the image that I have about myself, is the image that a leader has about him or herself. And failure it will influence self-esteem, and self-esteem will influence failure, and that will become a cycle. Another is failure and fear. They're very, very related. When they fail, next time they have to do something, they start feeling fear, and that fear will make them fail again. So that becomes another cycle also. Failure and pessimism. We have to find solutions. Leadership is about facing the problems and not complaining of the problems, but finding solutions. So we cannot be pessimistic. We have to be optimistic. We have to find resources, solutions, and we have to find our way out. Also, we will see success and vital circles. For example, we have faith and success. Faith is related to success. You have to nurture and develop your faith. If you have a person of faith, you will have success. Also, consistency and success. This is a process. Leadership is also a process where we are learning, we are developing, and we have to be consistent. We cannot be changing our mind all the time. We have to keep ourselves focused. Also, small succeeds and great success. We have to celebrate our small accomplishments, because every small accomplishment will guide us into a great success. Optimism and success. Optimism is a very important part of success, because, as I already mentioned, finding solutions is part of your responsibility as a leader. We have to break the vicious cycles, and that's part. We have to identify, we have to discern what is going on in the process of leadership, and we have to discern what has become an obstacle in our responsibility to lead, to influence, to guide, and to empower people, and to break those cycles. Whether it's fear, whether it's pessimistic, whether it's low self-esteem, we have to break those cycles. Lesson 7, the leader and the emotional intelligence. Basically, when we talk about emotional intelligence, is defined as the ability and the capacity to guide and to control not only our own emotions, but the emotions of the people. A leader has to be very skillful in that area, not only to control and to guide his or her emotions, but the emotions of the people. Emotional competences. The first one is self-awareness, which is the ability to recognize your own mental state, resources, and intuition. That's self-awareness. You're aware of what's going on inside you, with your feelings. Another is we have to develop self-regulation and emotional control. And the elements of self-regulation and emotional control are self-control, trustworthiness, conscience, adaptation, innovation. Self-control, as is kind of self-explanatory, we have to learn how to control ourselves, our emotions. Trustworthiness, people have to be able to trust us. To see us person who inspire, who motivate. We have conscience. We have to know and we have to take responsibility for our emotions, for our reactions, and for our actions. Adaptation. We have to be able to adapt to changes in leadership. And innovation, we have to be open to be creative. We have to be open to new ideas, to the innovation, because that will bring changes into leadership. That will bring changes into the organization, which is an important part of leadership. Now we're going to talk about motivation, and motivation is an important element of leadership because motivation helps us move people. In terms of motivation, the leader has to have empathy. He has to be able to identify with his group. He has to be able to understand others. He has to be able to develop others. He has to have the ability to serve and guide the people, to encourage the people, and encourage diversity, because in a group, everybody thinks different, everybody is a different person, so there's a diversity, and we have to be able to encourage that. And also have a political conscience, because the leader has to face challenges, relational challenge, and he has to be able to keep that in the right track. Also, we're going to talk about the social abilities of the leader. For example, the influence. We already talked about it. Communication. He has to be able to communicate the vision, the mission, management conflicts, because a leader is an administrator of relationships. Also, the change catalyst. He has to be able to build a platform for changes. He has to be a bridge builder. He has to bring people closer to each other. Also, he has to be an environmental participative builder. He has to make people to participate and to get involved in the organization. And he also has to develop teamwork. The leader in organizational change. We will see the fundamental principles of change. Reaction to change. People always have the reactions to change. People always have a perception and reaction to change. These are the states of reaction to change. A state of denial. They will not accept change. State of anger. They feel upset about changes. A state of bargaining, of negotiation. They try to negotiate change. Okay, I will allow this if this happens, and if those are the examples of negotiation. A state of depression. They're not happy. They're not satisfied about the change that is coming to happen. A state of acceptance. At the end, people end up as accepting change and making themselves available for change. In terms of applying and applying the organizational change, we have to create people awareness. In other words, we have to tell them why change is needed. We have to help them to trust in change. This is going to work. We have to give them knowledge. They have to know why we need change, how and what are we going to do to change. We have to empower people for change, and we also have to reinforce once again people constantly for change. Lesson 9, the leader and working in teams. Basically, people have to learn how to work as a team. That's the challenge of a leader. Bring people together to work together for a common goal. Basically, the characteristics in a teamwork is trust. People have to not only trust the leader, but also have to trust themselves and what they're doing. People has to have discipline. Everybody has to be committed for the same goal. They have to work together. Flexibility. They need flexibility one to another. It's part of working as a team. They have to understand each other and help each other. There has to be a motivation. Always, every group that wants to accomplish something has to have motivation and compensates motivation. Let's see the types of work teams. Basically, they're teams that solve problems. They have the ability to see problems and bring solutions. They're teams with specific tasks. We give people responsibilities, and they do a specific tasks that will help in reaching the goals. Let's see the roles in work team. There are the organizers. They specify in order. They know how to structures. They know how to deal with the structures and organization. The creative, people who bring new ideas and innovation to the group. The positives, this is the people who always bring solution, and they see the good and the benefits of everything. The negatives, they help us to bring balance. They always think about the consequences, if it's going to work or not. And the decision takers, people who have to take decisions. Lesson 10, the leader in communication. Communication is an important part of leadership. And the elements of communication are the transmitter. This is the person who communicates a certain message. The receptor, this is the group of the person who is receiving the message. The message, which is the content of what the leader is communicating to the people. And the channel, which are the resources or ways by which we communicate a certain message to the people. These are the elements that are very important. We have to understand communication systems. There are 3 systems. Verbal, as we speak, that's verbal communication. Corporal communication, our gestures and the way we move in order to communicate truth. And the tonal system. And specifically, this is related to the emotions. Our tone touches the emotions of people. Communication problems. A confusing and ambiguous message. People do not understand what the leader is saying. Missing feedback. The leader is not making sure that people understand him. Inadequate setting. The space where the communication is being taken is not the right place. The inadequate channel, and also sometimes the receptors and transmitters are not in agreement. Those are the elements that define communication. This is all for today, and I thank you for your attention and your desire to motivate yourself and learn yourself the principles of leadership.